sound of a gentle breeze, then a soft melancholic meow. You know, we often think of cats as these independent, aloof creatures just doing their own thing. But let me tell you a story about a mother cat named Amber, whose love for her family was as fierce as any lion's. It all started during a particularly harsh winter. The city, usually a playground of overflowing bins and generous hands, had become a barren wasteland. The snow fell relentlessly, burying everything in a thick white blanket. For Amber and her 4 tiny kittens, it was a time of desperation. Their usual food sources had vanished. Every rustle of a bag, every distant clatter was a false promise. The hunger was a constant gnawing ache in their bellies, and the kittens' weak cries were a dagger in Amber's heart. She was growing thinner by the day. Her milk was running low, and she knew she had to do something, anything, to save them. One icy night, driven by the piercing wind, Amber led her shivering family on a desperate search. They stumbled upon what seemed like a miracle, an old abandoned warehouse. The door was slightly ajar, offering a refuge from the storm. Inside it was dark and dusty, but it was dry and it was shelter. Amber found a pile of old rags in a corner and quickly herded her kittens onto it, curling her body around them, sharing what little warmth she had left. For a moment it felt like they were safe, but safety is a fragile thing. The warehouse wasn't as empty as it seemed. It was the territory of a gang of large, aggressive stray cats. They weren't welcoming. The first time Amber ventured out to find food, she was met with hisses and claws. This wasn't a home, it was a war zone. She had to be stealthy, a ghost in the shadows, just to find a few scraps they'd left behind. The constant threat wore on her. Every creak of the building, every shadow that moved sent a jolt of fear through her. She knew this wasn't sustainable. Her kittens were still too small to defend themselves. This temporary shelter was a ticking time bomb. One evening, exhausted and almost out of hope, Amber followed a faint, delicious smell. It led her out of the warehouse and across a quiet street to a small house with warm, glowing windows. Peering through the glass, she saw a family inside, laughing and sharing a meal. On the windowsill, a bowl of cat food sat, seemingly forgotten. Her heart pounded. This was it. With painstaking care, she began her mission. Night after night, she would sneak onto the porch, grab a few mouthfuls of kibble, and race back to her hungry kittens. It was a lifeline. They started to grow stronger, their coats filled out, and their playful energy returned. Amber felt a glimmer of hope. But then the twist. The family in the house noticed the disappearing food. Thinking it was raccoons or some other pest, they installed a new, tightly sealed cat flap on their door. One night, Amber arrived to find her path blocked. The food was there, she could smell it, but it was just out of reach. The window was sealed shut. Panic set in. The food ban was back in effect, and this time it felt final. Her lifeline had been cut. Defeated, she slumped onto the doormat, the cold seeping into her bones. She let out a long, mournful meow, a sound filled with all her desperation and sorrow. Suddenly, a light flickered on. The door creaked open, and a woman with kind eyes looked down at her. She saw Amber, thin and shivering, and her gaze softened. The woman didn't shoo her away. Instead, she left the door ajar and went back inside. A few moments later, she returned with a bowl of food and a saucer of warm milk, placing it gently on the mat. Amber ate, and the woman watched, a soft smile on her face. The next night, Amber decided to take the biggest risk of her life. She went to the warehouse, and one by one, she carried her kittens across the street, placing them carefully in a line on the woman's doormat. She then sat back and waited, her heart in her throat. When the door opened again, the woman gasped. She saw the 4 tiny, perfect kittens and their brave mother looking up at her. And in that moment, Amber's long, hard journey was over. She hadn't just found a meal, she had found a home. A safe, warm, and loving home for her entire family.